Thank you for viewing our poster presentation. My name is Danielle Hitch, and I am presenting on behalf of my teammates, Dion Williams, Joanna and Jessica Lees. Universal Design for Learning, or UDL, aims to create learning outcomes, resources and assessments that are accessible and equitable for everyone. The concept of assessment fairness aligns closely with these principles as a means of reducing bias, providing equal opportunities and fair access while responding to individual needs. All assessments occur in complex and dynamic contexts, which encompass individual factors, environmental factors, and activity or task factors. When it comes to implementation, context is everything. Today, we are presenting an overview of a critical analysis the team has undertaken about the adaptability of UDL guidelines within diverse learning contexts. We would like to challenge prescriptive approaches to their application in assessment in higher education and propose the use of the person, environment, occupation, participation, or PEOP model in partnership with the guidelines. The PEOP model describes the interrelationships between personal or individual factors, that is person, ecological or contextual factors, that is environment, and activities or tasks, that is occupation, along with their combined influence on participation. Each of these domains incorporates a range of factors, all of which have an influence on how people participate in daily life. This model was developed within the health profession of occupational therapy, hence the use of the word occupation. By occupation, we mean the everyday activities that people do as individuals, in families, and with communities, to occupy time and bring meaning and purpose to life. Assessments are key activities within the occupational realm of education, and in this case, they are the occupations we are referring to. The person domain refers to both assessors and students, while the environment domain encompasses both social and built environment aspects, which are external to the individual. In this brief presentation, we provide an overview of a critical analysis the team is undertaking about the adaptability of the UDL guidelines within diverse learning contexts. We were wondering, do the detailed and tangible guidelines available to support UDL implementation put the cart before the horse by encouraging a prescriptive approach? The diagram on our poster summarises our critical analysis of the alignment between the UDL guidelines and the PEOP model. The domain which aligned with the most UDL guidelines was occupation, as there were multiple guidelines relevant to the design of assessments. The environment domain was the next most frequently identified, with the person domain the least often identified. The main aspect of the person domain relevant to assessments were guidelines around the development of personal qualities and beliefs supporting assessment success. These included self-assessment, reflection, perseverance, and resilience. Another example is engagement with subject phobias. For example, orientation to an evidence-based practice unit could include reassurance and reframing around the student's ability to complete the required statistical analysis. Much of the guidelines relevant to environment referred to the format and content of learning or supportive resources. However, there were also guidelines for the social environment related to access to peers and mentors, and the creation of an inclusive learning and assessment environment. An example of this is provided by peer-assisted study sessions, or PASS, which support the students to prepare for assessments. UDL guidelines regarding assessments focused on diverse opportunities for engagement or response, feedback, and the integration of relevant contextual information. An example of this approach was the use of realistic clinical scenarios as case studies within assessments. However, many of the guidelines are shared between multiple domains, as shown in the white boxes. Highlighting patterns as a UDL strategy is undertaken by persons, both assessors and students, and is expressed in the environment via learning and support resources. An example of this approach would be the design of scaffolding and adjustments for a specific assessment for delivery within the learning environment. The area of the PEOP model, start again. The area of the PEOP model where most of the UDL guidelines aligned was the overlap between the person and the occupational domains. This is not surprising given the focus of UDL on meeting the needs of diverse learners. The active involvement of students in assessment, goal setting, assessment design, and contributing personal responses is advocated to promote engagement. But these measures can also promote fairness by ensuring the student voice is heard at all stages of assessment. Another example, implemented in many health professions courses, is explicit references to existing knowledge and prior learning by asking students to reflect on clinical placements as part of their assessment response. All three domains combine to result in participation. In this case, assessment participation. Participation is an emergent property which results from the complex interaction of the guidelines within and between the PEOP domains. Emergent properties are self-regulating because modifications of one domain or guideline will inevitably influence the other domains or guidelines. This more accurately reflects the complexity of assessment fairness than a prescriptive application of the guidelines, where A is thought to result in B. Using the UDL guidelines together with the PEOP takes advantage of the best features of them both, the specificity of the guidelines, and the complexity of the PEOP model. The interdependence between the domains of the PEOP provides the flexibility required for solutions tailored to different learning contexts. Without this flexibility, implementation of the UDL guidelines continues to suffer from a lack of engagement with context. Our original question about putting the cart before the horse challenges the prevailing assumption that the UDL guidelines are applicable and relevant across all learning environments. We argue that to be truly universal, the UDL guidelines must be responsive to both the assessment needs of individual learners and their broader learning context. The guidelines are very detailed when it comes to assessments as an occupation, but are less comprehensive in regard to person or environment factors. While all domains may not need equal detail, we are potentially missing opportunities to develop personal and environmental strategies that promote assessment fairness, when most of the focus is on the assessment itself. In conclusion, we would challenge prescriptive approaches to the UDL guidelines for assessment in higher education. A context-engaged approach using the person, environment, occupation, participation PEOP model can be applied in partnership with the guidelines. Assessment fairness is a very complex concept and issue, with fuzzy boundaries with many other related concepts. Engaging more fully in the broad context for assessment, beyond the characteristics or approach adopted for the assessments themselves, will promote fairness in a more holistic manner. Rather than matching strategies to specific guidelines, the PEOP model encourages educators to look for opportunities to address multiple domains simultaneously. In this way, educators can approach universal design as a practice occurring within a multidimensional context. Complex issues need complex solutions, and further development of the person and environment aspects of the UDL guidelines is recommended. Thank you for your time.